I'd like to begin with a personal story. When my son, Max, was 6 years old, he expressed an interest in learning how to shoot pool. It's kind of interesting for a 6-year-old desire to have, but we looked around, and it turns out around the corner from where I live in Manhattan, there's a pool hall. So I call up the pool hall and speak to the owners of the company, and they said, yeah, we give lessons, and we give lessons to kids. And it turns out the person that gives lessons to the kids is one of the top 10 players in the country. It was an amazing experience for my son. And every day or twice a week, we'd walk up to the pool hall. And one day, when he was about 7 years old, he stopped me and he said, hey, Dad, what happens when you and Mom die? Now, you can imagine what I'm starting to think. I mean, I'm starting to think, is he having an inkling about heaven? Is this something he learned about or saw something in school? Did he watch something on TV that traumatized him? I had hundreds of assumptions bombarding my head because what I was most concerned about was getting that right answer, because if I didn't get the right answer, I'd mess him up for life. So it dawned on me that I needed to ask him, why? And I turned and I said, Max, why are you asking me this question? And he said, well, Dad, I want to know when you and Mom die, do I get the apartment? Because I would like to put a pool table in the living room. I tell this story because I want to remind you about the assumption. The assumption has amazing powers. It can build walls or it can open doors. And the reality is, while most people think, well, I maybe make an assumption here and there, you really make assumptions hundreds of times a day. It's really a key element on how you make decisions. And as the world gets more complex, as the world gets busier, we become more and more dependent on those assumptions. Now, that's okay. But the trouble is that we treat those assumptions as truths rather than for what they are, which they are, their beliefs. And that gets us into all kinds of trouble. For example, you judge people before you actually get to know them. In business, how many times you think there is only one way to really do this? Or perhaps you make assumptions and you're already thinking of the answer before you really truly understand what the question is all about, such as what happened with my son, Max. You see, this happens in the subconscious. We're not even aware that we're making those assumptions, but they have significant consequences to them. Now, let me use a little magic to demonstrate this. I'm going to ask somebody to, excuse me, you're standing right here. Could you just come up, please? Yes, I think you'll have to come this way. And what is your name?
Julia.
Julia. Very nice to meet you, Julia. Step over here. A round of applause for Julia, please. All right, Julia, would you go over there and would you just there's a deck of cards. Would you please do me a favor, open it up, look at the deck, make sure it's a regular deck. Regular deck?
Yeah,
okay.
That's good.
We have the deck. And we need to take the jokers out. We just put the jokers down over there. There's a reason why we take the jokers out. Now, Julia, what I'd like you to do is I'd just like you to tell me when to stop. Just tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, I'd like you to take a look at this card. Hold that card. I don't want to see it. And hold it. And what I'd like you to do is show it to everybody in the audience. Show it to everybody in the audience. Okay? Now take it and put it back in the deck. In the deck. Take the deck by yourself. Shuffle the deck up and put the deck back in the box. Okay, Julia. Now, it's almost there. It's hard to do on stage, I know. It's difficult. Okay, very good, very good. Come over here. Come over here. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'm going to ask you, we're going to do a little math here, okay? And I just want you to imagine, if you pick the king, a king is 13, a queen is 12, a jack is 10, a 10 is 10, right? 10. Good, great, okay. So here's what I want you to do. You have a number, right? That card represents a number. We already have the suit established. You have a number. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you I know it's challenging, and you're in front of a lot of people here. Don't get nervous, but I'd like you to divide that number by 2.
Okay.
And that gives you a new number. Well, believe it or not, I actually know what that number is, along with the suit, and I have it in a giant card inside that envelope. Would you go please get that envelope? And would you open it up, please? And would you pull it out and show it to everybody? Thank you very much.
You're good.
Julia, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Here, we'll just put that over here. So let's talk about what happened. So Julia picks a 7 of clubs. You all see it. Divide it by 2. The result is 3.5 of clubs. So immediately you're starting to make assumptions. See, you're assuming a few things. Some of you might instantly feel a little embarrassed. For me, right? You're feeling like, Andy messed up. Some of you are making the assumption maybe he should stick to his day job. Right? Those are assumptions that are running through your minds. But what if you were to challenge that assumption? What if you were to acknowledge that assumption? What would be to bring it from the subconscious level to the conscious level, to acknowledge it, to raise your awareness of it? Then you have huge opportunities in front of you. You have huge opportunities. I call this making an assumption. You see, when you make an assumption, what you're doing is you're giving yourself the opportunity to consider that assumption, to suspend belief, to allow new ideas to open up and to come in. So an example in this magic trick here, what happened was, if you turn that assumption into an assumption, then you might start thinking other things. Alternative ideas would start coming in. Hey, maybe Andy wants me to think he kind of messed up. You know, maybe he's doing, or I am not seeing something that is truly going on. Maybe he is using a special card. And that's the power of the assumption when you turn it into an assumption. It gives you opportunity, it gives you choices in which you can really minimize putting up those walls that stand in the way of you achieving what you want to achieve, and open the doors to allow you to find the solutions that did not exist before. So when you take an assumption and you register it, and you turn it into a assumption, you now have incredible power. One, you can blindly accept it as you would do an assumption subconsciously. Two, you can consider it, which then allows you to suspend belief for the new ideas to come in. And three, you can challenge it. And challenging it is the fastest way to generate a new idea or to see an opportunity that did not exist before. It's a process that works. And when you do it, when you really turn your assumptions into assumptions, people will notice. And they will say to you things like, wow, how did you start that business? Well, that's amazing. When did you become such a great leader? How did you think of such a great idea? And you were going to answer the same way magicians have answered when they've been asked, how do you do it? You're going to say, I did it extremely well. Thank you very much for your time.